The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Maintaining Staff Productivity, presented by our sponsor, Heffernan. We're so happy you can join us. My name is Amanda Ramatar and I will be your moderator today, and I will also be monitoring questions you may have during the session. Before we open up the session, let's review a couple of key items. All of the webinar materials we discuss can be found at the URL currently showing on your screen. I will be sharing this URL in a follow-up email, so don't feel like you need to write it down right now. If you have trouble with your internet connection during the webinar, we recommend leaving the presentation and logging back in. We do not control the audio. Your devices control the audio. So if you have audio difficulties, try adjusting the volume settings on your device. If a telephone line goes dead during the call, hang up and call back again to the same number. If all lines go dead, watch the on-screen chat box for an alternative call-in number. Feel free to ask questions or provide feedback by using the chat box or questions box during the webinar. If you are using a tablet, you may need to tap on the screen for the options bar to appear. Then you can select the appropriate option. We may not respond immediately, but we will work your questions or feedback into the presentation. If we can't get to your comment or question during the session, we will be online afterwards to respond, or we may follow up in an email if we run completely out of time. You may also email us at moderator@aspenrmg.com for up to 48 hours after the webinar. This will be a 1-hour presentation. Questions and comments are very much encouraged throughout, and the presenters will be answering questions at the end and during the polling questions. And lastly, we have a number of upcoming webinars covering a variety of topics, including those listed at the Heffernan webinar website. In addition, we offer the mandatory Preventing Harassment training in English 3 times a year. With that, let's begin today's webinar, Maintaining Staff Productivity. Our presenter today is Diana Cano. Diana has over 20 years of professional human resources experience. She is a subject matter expert in the full spectrum of HR management. She has held progressively responsible positions with public sector, special district, and private sector employers. Diana has notable experience in strategic HR planning, performance management, staffing, succession planning, employment law compliance, employment contract negotiations, employee benefits, compensation and payroll, training and development, and HR coaching and mentoring. In 2021, Diana decided to start her own HR consulting business, where she has been able to deliver HR solutions and a wide range of HR policies and procedures, documents, and recruitment activities to various businesses. Diana looks forward to using her HR expertise in assisting all attendees today. Thank you for being with us, Diana.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. I'm actually excited to be here with all of you this morning to cover the topic of maintaining productivity. So we'll go ahead and get started. And the slide is not moving. So I apologize, I'm trying to move the slide over. Well, there it goes. Looks like it was a little frozen. So this is just what we're going to be covering in today's seminar is we will be discussing what is productivity, what makes people productive, strategies on how to make you and your team more productive, productivity and remote work, some tips for managers and supervisors, and then just some helpful resources that you could look at the end of this seminar. So here's the first question. How would you describe your team as productive? A, yes, you consistently outperform. B, sometimes we get a lot done, but we can always improve. C, no, my team needs to become more productive. Or D, we were productive until the pandemic came along.
We usually like to get about 70% answers in before we close the polling questions. So we'll hold off for a minute and let everybody get themselves squared away here. Right now we're almost there. We're at 60. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I'm going to close the question. I'm going to show the results. So we have 15% say that yes, we consistently outperform. 67% say sometimes we get a lot done, but we can always improve. 17% say no, my team needs to become more productive, and 2% say we were productive until the pandemic came along.
And I think that's pretty consistent with most organizations. So let's get right into discussing what is productivity. So we've all heard the saying, work smarter, not harder. No matter what your job is or what industry you're working in, there never seems to be enough hours in the day. And as a result, many of us feel that we're always behind, but that's not good for productivity or for your health. So what do you do about it? Do you think you work more hours? I actually believe the answer is not necessarily. So instead of working more hours, I think the most effective way to improve productivity is really just applying your energy where it matters. That actually boosts your productivity. So productivity is the measure of efficiency of a person completing a task. We often assume that productivity means getting more things done each day, but that isn't it. Productivity is actually getting the important things done consistently. So being productive is about maintaining a steady average speed on a few things, not maximizing speed on everything. So as you know, there's only so much time in a day. Productivity generally refers to the ability for either you as an individual or as a team or even just as an organization to work efficiently within that time in order to maximize output. So high productivity actually results from a mix of different factors. Some of these factors include motivation, personalities of the individuals, the work environment, or just the environment where you happen to be working or performing, the kind of support you get from others, and then obviously the time management skills, and even to some degree, just luck. So some of the physical elements that play a role in fostering productivity could include exercise, it could include healthy eating, sufficient sleep, also could boost efficiency, both in the long term and short term. So an individual's productivity hinges on mental energy, a sense of internal and external motivation as well. It often emerges naturally from work that they find inherently meaningful or valuable to them. And so while not everything that one must do each day can hold a deep personal feeling, there have been research that has found that maintaining a focus on a larger long-term goal actually can help activate the drive and energy to push through those tedious day-to-day tasks. So unfortunately, there's countless ways for productivity to be derailed as well. So for example, it takes time for the brain to disengage from one set of tasks and then to commit to another set of tasks. So sometimes switching between many tasks all at once actually slows down the overall productivity. There's also issues with technology that poses an endless supply of immediate distractions. Technologies such as cell phones, iTunes, just radio commercials if the radio is playing in your background. And then, of course, you always have those computer shutdowns that often take place. So what is it that you believe makes people productive? Well, there is no magic formula for productivity, but decades of research suggests that some people are better able to execute and be more productive than others. While some factors that drive productivity, like personality, aren't always easy to change, those who need to boost their productivity can actually focus on simple steps validated by research. So anyone can take steps to increase their productivity. They could identify their hacks and techniques that work for them, and then also overcome the obstacles to productivity that may be in their path. So for humans, the drive for productivity tends to be motivated by a set of overlapping natural desires. Some of these contribute to either a group or a desire to be challenged and mentally stimulated, maybe even a desire to fulfill basic needs such as food or shelter or safety. So those desires can motivate you to complete an assignment or, at work, or maybe clean your house, even maybe just making dinner for your family. And so beyond those basic needs, productivity is also driven by your self-concept and your emotions. So while you may be motivated to complete a difficult project because it will make you more attractive for either a promotion or because you want to feel satisfied in a job well done. So the desire to be perceived by others as a productive person, a highly valued trait in many cultures, may also motivate someone to get things done, even if it isn't necessarily for survival. So the individual differences in personality plays a major role in productivity. Some individuals tend to be more organized or are more attentive to detail. Individuals who are better able to delay gratification may also be more productive than those who tend to pursue immediate rewards. Some of the external factors, such as support from others, education, and your environment, also can influence an individual to be more or less productive. So both positive and negative emotions can drive or hinder productivity through their specific effect, may also depend on the individual. So in general, the negative emotions exert a much greater effect on someone's output. Feeling stressed out or anxious about an upcoming deadline can motivate one person to work diligently to turn it in early, whereas for another person, they may attempt to avoid those negative feelings by putting off the project or wait until the last possible second to complete it. The effect of happiness on a productivity is complex. It has long been suggested that happy workers are more productive. There actually was a study from the University of Oxford that found that when workers are happier, that they tend to work faster. However, working faster doesn't always equal to being more productive. There was another study that was done in Stanford University that actually says it's the compassion that is actually what makes a workplace more productive. And then, we have those workaholics. Are workaholics more productive? I tend to believe not necessarily. I think someone who works compulsively may give the appearance of higher productivity. Most evidence suggests that it is an illusion. In the long run, those who never stop working tend to work less efficiently and struggle to maintain focus. They also have a significantly higher risk of depression and anxiety, which likely in turn will harm their productivity. Humans are not machines, and attempting to maintain constant productivity is really a recipe for disaster. Evidence suggests also that people who maintain high productivity tend to engage certain behaviors. So these may include setting clear boundaries between work and life balances, saying no to new tasks when they're overburdened, prioritizing regular breaks and time off, and then collaborating with others in ways that benefit both parties. Oops. So some of the factors that may impact productivity is definitely present. This graphic only illustrates a few of them. But it all breaks down to factors that you can control versus factors that you have no control over. So when you want the best from yourself and for others, you have to recognize that there are some things that we just can't control. The recent COVID pandemic, which we all happen to still be going through in one form or another, is one of those things that we can't control. I mean, as much as we want to, we're just limited, even to the degree of employees, whether they get sick or not. Some of the companies, have policies on either working at home or being returning back to the office. However, if you're working at the office and then there's an outbreak, then you have to basically shut down and quarantine and sterilize and then return home. So you can't change, employees' personalities and how they adjust to all of these things that we have no control over. But you can help your employees learn more about their own personalities and how to work with others in these sorts of situations where we have no control over. They can be taught certain coaching and training methods and tools to make them better understanding of how to work with all these different dynamics and help them remain productive at work while these situations occur. You can give them various education on healthier solutions, as well as such as wellness initiatives or programs that encourage overall wellness. So if your team isn't productive, one of the things you have to do is find out why, by asking if it's because they can't do it or because they won't do it. So if your team can't do it, is it a training issue? Is there training that you could provide? Are there obstacles that can be removed? Is it a process that needs to be improved to make things better at work? Or if they won't do it, find out what your employees' motivation is and try to appeal to their drive. Obviously as a last result, there are disciplinary processes that have to take place if individuals won't do it and don't find any motivation to change their behavior. So becoming more productive draws on a combination of mental energy, physical energy, and motivation derived from meaningful work. Simple strategies can support these primary needs, improve focus, and boost efficiency, regardless of the domain, whether it's work, school, or home, in which someone is trying to be productive. Productivity over the long term also relies on maintaining physical and mental health. So though many people don't always consider how self-care, regular sleep, and consistent exercise could contribute to their work performance or ability to complete tasks at home, in reality, all of these things are critical for improving cognitive functioning and ensuring that one has the stamina to complete necessary tasks. They also often boost mood, which can further improve productivity as well as promote greater well-being. So in many ways, promoting productivity is a straightforward process, though that doesn't always seem easy. Identifying one's priorities and completing projects or tasks that are most important or meaningful can lead to a productive period. So creating a schedule for decisions that need to be made and jobs that need to be done could also be useful. When one faces responsibilities that seem particularly daunting, breaking them into small incremental steps tends to be beneficial. This can also help alleviate feelings of stress and inspire a sense of fulfillment that enables one to take on the next task. So people typically focus, best for periods of anywhere from 50 to 120 minutes. And after that window, a short respite is actually encouraged, either taking a walk or chatting with a colleague. Those sorts of things can actually deliver another spurt of productivity. So understanding what your productivity style is a good first step in increasing productivity. So most people, for instance, have specific times of the day when they are naturally more alert. So planning important work during high energy periods while saving the less important tasks or rest for low energy periods could also help optimize your productivity. Other straightforward strategies include just breaking larger projects into smaller steps, focusing on a single discrete task at a time rather than multitasking, and taking regular breaks to give the brain and body a chance to recharge. So there are many tried and true methods that actually boost productivity. So in this next portion of our presentation, I'm going to go ahead and discuss some of these methods that are commonly known. The first method is the Eisenhower box. So as you know, Dwight Eisenhower was the 34th president of the United States. He lived one of the most productive lives that you could imagine. During his time in office, he launched programs that directly led to the development of the interstate highway system, the launch of the internet, the exploration of space, and the peaceful use of alternative energy sources. But before becoming president, Eisenhower was a five-star general in the United States Army. He served as the supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe during World War II, and was responsible for planning and executing invasions of North America, France, and Germany. He also served as the president of Columbia University and became the first supreme commander of NATO. And then in between all of this, he somehow found time to pursue hobbies like golfing and oil painting. So obviously, Eisenhower had an incredible journey and incredible ability to sustain his productivity, not just for a few months, weeks, or months, but for decades. And so for that reason, it's no surprise that this method for time management, task management, and productivity have been studied by many people. His famous or most famous productivity strategy is known as the Eisenhower box. Some people also call it as the Eisenhower matrix. So it's really a simple decision-making tool that you could use right now. I know that I have also used it personally. So how this strategy works is it allows you to take action and organize all of the tasks. And you use the matrix that you see on the screen, and you separate all your actions based on 4 possibilities. So you go through your tasks and you put them in one of the 4 boxes, one box being a task that's urgent and important. So those tasks you will do immediately. The second box is important but not urgent. So those are the tasks that you actually will schedule to do later. And then the third box is urgent but not important. So those tasks you would delegate to someone else. The fourth box is neither urgent nor important. So those tasks you will eliminate completely. So the great thing about this matrix, you actually could also use it for broad productivity plans, or even for smaller daily plans. For instance, like what you should do on a daily basis. If you've got a list of tasks, you can categorize them in this manner as well. Another method is the Warren Buffett's to-list strategy. So Warren Buffett, consistently is consistently ranked among the wealthiest people in the world. Given his success, it stands to reason that Buffett has an excellent understanding of how to spend his time each day. From a monetary perspective, you could say that he manages his time better than anyone else. So the 2-step productivity strategy that Warren Buffett uses to help his employees determine their priorities and actions is this. Simply, the first step is to write down your top 25 goals. They could be career goals, they could be personal goals, but basically write down those first 25 and that you want to accomplish, whether it be by the end of the day, the end of the week, or the end of the month. And then the second step would be to review the list of the 25 goals and circle the top 5. So basically at this point, you'll have your list A, which is the top 5 goals that are most important, and list B, which are the 20 goals that are remaining on that list of 25. The strategy would be that you would begin working right away on those items on list A. And you are probably questioning what you're supposed to do with those other 25. Some of you may think that they're still important, and so you start to work on them intermittently as you see fit. They're not as urgent, so you're not giving them, all of your time or attention. But what Warren Buffett's theory is that everything that you didn't circle just became your avoid at all cost list. So no matter what, these things get absolutely no attention until you have completed those top 5 items that you've circled. So spending time on those secondary priorities may be the reason why you have 20 half-finished projects instead of 5 completed ones. So you would eliminate ruthlessly. You force yourself to focus, and once those are completed, then you start over basically by coming up with another list. Just begin again. The next method is the Ivy Lee method. So in 1918, Charles Schwab was one of the richest men in the world. Schwab was the president of the Bethlehem Steel Corporation, the largest shipbuilder and the second largest steel producer in America at the time. The famous inventor Thomas Edison once referred to Schwab as the master hustler. He was constantly seeking an edge over the competition. One day in 1918, in his quest to increase the efficiency of his team and discover better ways to get things done, Schwab arranged a meeting with a highly respected productivity consultant named Ivy Lee. Lee was a successful businessman in his own right and widely remembered as a pioneer in the field of public relations. So as the story goes, Schwab brought Lee into his office and said, "Show me a way to get more things done." So Lee, in turn, met with all of his executives for 15 minutes. And during the 15 minutes that he met with each executive, Ivy Lee explained his simple daily routine for achieving peak productivity. So the step would be 1, at the end of each workday, you write down the 6 most important things that you need to accomplish tomorrow or the next day. Do not write more than 6 tasks. 2, you then prioritize those 6 tasks in order of true importance. And then 3, when you arrive to work, you concentrate only on the first task. You work until that first task is finished before you move on to the second task. You would approach the rest of your list in the same fashion. So at the end of each day, you would move any of the unfinished items to a new list of 6 tasks for the following day. And you repeat this process every working day thereafter. So the strategy sounded simple, but Schwab and his executive team gave it a try. And after 3 months, there was progress with the company. And they were able to actually complete all of the goals and all of the priorities that needed to be done, to the point where there was a check that was rewarded to the inventor for coming up with this plan. So the idea is that it's a simple enough to actually work. It forces you to make those tough decisions and not derive from that list. It removes the friction of where to start, and it also allows you to concentrate on the single task. The next method is actually explained in a book by Mason Curry. It's an actual audio book that's called Daily Rituals. And it's the author, Anthony Trollope, he approached, his approach may seem simple on the first on the surface, but there's actually more going on here than what appears at first glance. So the strategy here is that he had to become productive, and as an author, he had to write for living. And in the beginning, it was recognized and noticed that this author was able to publish 47 novels, 18 works of nonfiction, 12 short stories, 2 plays, an assortment of articles and letters. And so the question, specifically was, how he achieved that in such a short period of time. And the author, Anthony Trollope, said he required himself to write 250 words specifically every quarter of an hour. So after ranking priorities for the day, if the number one task is really a big project, then it could leave you feeling frustrated because it takes long to finish. For example, if you're working on a project that actually takes 2 days to complete, and you walk in and begin that task, you're not going to be able to finish it in the first day. Even though you work all day long and you don't complete the task, you may find yourself feeling frustrated, and by mid-afternoon, even at the end of the day, when you've spent the entire day on this task and yet you feel like you may have got nothing done, but all you really did get done was an unfinished project. So a list of what you have to do the next morning becomes redoing or possibly continuing to work on that project that you spent the entire day on, which sometimes could be disheartening. And so Anthony Trollope, his theory and his solution to this, which is a common problem, is actually to measure progress based on the completion of what you've done. So he measures his progress in 15-minute increments. So this approach allowed him to enjoy feelings of satisfaction and accomplishment very quickly while continuing to work on the larger task. So small measures of progress help maintain momentum over the long run, which means you're more likely to finish a large task. The faster you complete a productive task, the more quickly your day develops an attitude of productivity and effectiveness. So Anthony found that the second point, the speed in which you complete your first task of the day, to be particularly important for maintaining a high productive output day after day. Another method is the GTD method. So along those same lines, the Getting Things Done method is a productivity system developed by productivity and organizational consultant David Allen, who popularized this in his 2001 book called Getting Things Done. So the core tenets of the GTD system involves writing down everything that needs to be done, breaking them down into actionable steps, and then grouping those similar tasks together, and then scheduling blocks of time in which to complete them. Though many of the aspects of the GTD method are widely known or shared with other productivity systems, the GTD method actually gained a large following for its simplicity and straightforwardness. Some proponents actually also claim that in addition to improving productivity, the GTD system also reduces anxiety. So the Pomodoro technique is also another method. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. And the Pomodoro technique was named after a tomato-shaped timer that its creator, which Francisco Cerullo, used to devise this techniques. So there is actually very little research to back up this technique's effectiveness. However, many individuals and coaches and time management professionals report that this method does boost productivity by improving concentration and it discourages multitasking. So someone using this technique would set a timer for 25 minutes and work on a single task for the duration of that time. And then when the timer goes off, they take a 5-minute break, and then they reset for another 25 minutes, and then they start again, either on the same task or, if needed, on a different task. So after completing 4 Pomodoros, each one consisting of 25 minutes, the method then requires that you take a little bit longer of a break, usually anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. The next method that we have is bullet journaling. So the bullet journaling system actually gained widespread popularity in the latter half of the last decade for its simplicity, its claims of effectiveness, and because bullet journaling can be aesthetically pleasing. Many bullet journalers have taken great pride in beautifying their journals and or sharing them on social media. So bullet journaling is a productivity and planning system that's devised by a designer named Ryder Carroll. It requires a single journal that is then used to track almost everything in a user's life. So it could include your schedule, it could be goals, appointments, events, budgets, any random thoughts or anything that you may see fit that needs to be there. The information is written in short, simple bullet points, and then it's typically denoted with symbols or colors that indicate what each item is. Carroll himself actually said that this bullet journaling also helped him manage his learning disability and ADHD. So both of which he was diagnosed as a child. But because of this system's low barrier to entry, it's also been used as a popular source for the ADHD community, or those individuals who have memory problems and others who suffer from following complex systems or routines. And then the final method is, a tried and true to-do list. To-do lists, have often been found to be effective if they are used consistently. But whether they're used consistently tends to come down to someone's personality or their productivity style and the nature of the work that needs to be done. Some researchers, for instance, found that individuals who make structured, regular to-do lists tend to procrastinate less and work more efficiently. So making lists of things to do also helps with anxiety. People tend to feel overwhelmed by all of the things that need to be done, and they often find that having it down on paper actually renders it to feel more organized. It feels less frightening, and it's a little bit easier to tackle. Similarly, crossing the items off once those items are completed also forms a sense of motivation and even stress relief. So to-do lists can also help an individual separate those unimportant tasks from the important ones, and then to keep track of those easily forgotten responsibilities or appointments, and break those larger tasks also into smaller chunks. There really is no one right way to write a to-do list. However, there are some specific strategies that many people find helpful. So some of those strategies might be separating appointments from tasks that have to be completed. Maybe putting appointments on a calendar and then doing a to-do list in addition to could be helpful. Keeping different groups of to-dos. This could serve as a reminder to move from one task to another one that's related. That will improve efficiency and allow for more work to be completed in less time. Another strategy would be breaking those large tasks into smaller steps with a to-do list for each item. A large, complex task can be daunting to start. It may linger on a to-do list as a result So breaking them into baby steps can help lower the barrier to entry and make it more likely that they'll be completed. In addition to crossing off each milestone as it's finished, it could be mentally rewarding and provide motivation to move on to the next one. And then creating a to-do list that for items that are recurring, items that are necessary, specific things that need to be scheduled each day or week or month also would be another strategy. So the most common problem that people face is that their to-do list becomes too detailed and it becomes overwhelming. And some people benefit from having every possible task, both large and small, on a long running to-do list. But others find that this approach creates a visual and mental clutter, and it makes it difficult to direct their energy to what actually matters. And those who find that to-do list pretty exhaustive, it becomes overwhelming to them, and then it makes it challenging for them to prioritize of what actually has to be done. David Burkus, he's a leadership and management professor, so he suggests a counterintuitive solution. So identifying the most important items on a to-do list, removing them, and then transferring them to an actual calendar, making it very specific about what's scheduled and critical to be done, leaving all the other items off. They become less vital, and they could be tackled at another time on a running to-do list that can help someone prioritize later what could be put off a little bit longer. So there are certain strategies and tricks that are designed to bolster lagging motivation, both short and long-term goals. So bundling would be a way where you would combine undesirable activities with desirable ones. So for example, someone who's struggling to find motivation to work out would do so if they're listening to maybe their favorite music or their favorite podcast. Another hack would be a buddy system. So completing tasks with a friend also will help them be an accountability partner. Some experts recommend that even having simple tasks like paying bills, scheduling appointments, all those things may be being done in the presence of family or friends, so that those kinds of daunting tasks don't feel so unpleasant. And then also your future self. So deliberately imagining how one's future self will feel if the goal is or isn't completed. This also serves as both positive and negative reinforcement based on the individual's preferred motivational style. So yes, research has consistently found that people are more likely to stick with good habits if the cues and tools are directly built into their environment. So someone who wants to eat more fresh fruit, for instance, should buy a fruit basket, go to the store, get fruit, purchase the fruit, and then put that fruit directly on the counter where you'll visually be reminded of your goal throughout the day. Someone who wants to improve their focus at work, on the other hand, maybe could reorientate their office so that their back is to the door, making them less likely to be distracted by coworkers that are walking by. So beyond the specific behaviors an individual wants to promote, there are additional environmental tweaks that may improve productivity. So working in a well-lit, properly ventilated room, for example, has been linked to greater well-being, productivity, and concentration, while having plants nearby also has been associated with increased attentiveness and reaction time.
All right, we have a polling question that says, how's your team doing? And we only have part of the question on the screen, or part of the answers on the screen. So let me read the whole thing for everyone. So how's your team doing? A, as good as can be expected. We have a wellness program in place and look after our employees' mental and physical well-being. B, we provide health benefits and expect our employees to know what to do to take care of themselves. C, I regularly check in with my employees and am informed of things that may impact their productivity, such as stress at home. And D, I don't know, I've never asked. All right, we have it 55% voted. We're growing as we speak, so we're almost at our 70% threshold. Couple more. Awesome. All right, so we're at 70%, so I am going to close the polling question and share the results. So we have 15% that said as good as can be expected, 36% that said we provide health benefits and expect employees to know what to do to take care of themselves. 43% said I check in regularly with my employees, and 7% said I don't know, I've never asked.
Great. So though perfect physical health is certainly not a prerequisite for productivity, evidence actually shows consistently that taking care of the mind and the body can lead to an improved ability to complete necessary tasks. It helps you stay focused, and it also keeps priorities straight. So focusing on health can be a myriad of benefits that come alongside productivity too. And efforts don't need to be extreme. So in order to see the results, instead of aiming to meet the basic needs for sleep, nutrition, stress reduction, physical activity, all these things can improve your mood, cognitive function, and stamina, the effects of which will likely show up at your job, at your home, or just throughout your day-to-day life. Sleep and rest more are generally the most critical for maintaining productivity over the long term. So just one night of inadequate sleep makes it more difficult for the brain to learn, to concentrate, and to retain new information for the next day. It could also lead to moodiness, irritability, or emotional instability, which can harm interpersonal relationships and can make it more difficult for groups to work effectively together. So in the long run, poor sleep can damage physical and mental health, harming productivity as well as overall well-being and morale. So by contrast, restful sleep improves focus, minimizes distractibility, and improves mood, making it significantly easier to get work done and remain productive across all domains. Self-care, broadly defined, is any task that's deliberately undertaken to improve mental, emotional, or physical well-being. Though individual strategies vary, self-care usually involves prioritizing sleep, eating nutritious food, exercising regularly, meditating, or making use of other relaxation techniques. All of these activities have the potential to improve productivity by uplifting mood, strengthening cognitive skills like focus and problem solving, and perhaps even boosting creativity. By contrast, neglecting self-care can itself hinder success. Working without rest and prioritizing the completion of tasks above all else is a recipe for stress, errors, and ultimately burnout. And burnout, this is why so many modern companies offer employee wellness programs. Studies have shown that these wellness programs can improve productivity by 66%. Absenteeism has decreased. 67% of employees are also more satisfied. You also don't need a huge budget to launch a program of your own. Good programs give your employees the resources and the freedom to meet their personal health goals. So some ideas that make room for wellness at companies could be encouraging a 20-minute break as opposed to a 10-minute break, so that it allows for time for an employee to either take a walk, do a quick workout, or just simple stretching exercises there at their desk. Other wellness goals could be to create a team that uses fitness trackers, set up a group goal to walk a certain number of steps, either by the day or by the week. And then if your team meets that goal, maybe you could celebrate by going to a healthy lunch together. Checking also to see what the health plan providers in your company offers in terms of wellness support programs. Getting the team together to participate either in a marathon or an obstacle course. Maybe starting a weekly fitness class, or either virtual or in the office. Promoting a healthy work-life balance by setting clear communication rules. If people are used to answering messages or sending emails after hours, maybe you could put a stop to that. Give your employees permission to take mental health days. They're not going to be productive if they're overwhelmed anyways. But whatever you decide, just make sure that you participate. You can't force employees to take care of themselves if you aren't setting the right example. So if you're sending messages after hours, then talk about the meaningful things that you do outside of work. If you set a wellness challenge, be the one to beat it. If you offer a wellness program, you have to be one of the top participants. So set the example, prove to your employees that this stuff actually matters and is important to you. Because if you don't practice what you preach, your team will actually see that it's not important to you, and then nothing will change and they will not participate. So boosting your team's productivity actually composes of a few points. So being efficient, consider how your business is currently operating and be open to the potential of changing the way you work. So remember, it's equally as important to make short-term and long-term lists as it is to prioritize tasks, especially in a small business. So is there a way that staff members could structure their day to enable them to achieve their daily goals? Can you provide each member of staff with a plan and encourage each to make a list to ensure that he or she is completing the prioritized jobs on time and then staying on task all day, resulting in efficient working? The next point to boost would be to delegate. Delegation comes with an element of risk, but increased responsibility is important for improving the morale and job satisfaction of your staff. So give responsibilities to qualified employees that have a proven track record with success in a certain field, and trust that they will perform the task well. If you allow employees to change, if you allow employees a chance to gain skills and leadership experience, it actually will benefit the company and provide your employees with the sense of achievement in the direction of their careers. The next point would be to reduce distractions. So social media, could be a huge productivity killer, but it isn't practical to have a no phone policy. So instead, you might want to try to keep employees focused and engaged while allowing them some breathing room. Maybe encouraging employees to turn off their mobiles, but then taking regular breaks during which they can feel free to check on their phones. This will ensure that the time spent at their desk is more productive. The fourth point is having the right tool and equipment. Providing employees with the right tools and equipment is important so they can perform their duties efficiently and on a time. There's nothing more counterproductive than spending time waiting for paperwork to print because you haven't got a fast printing device. High quality, modern programs and equipment make a massive difference, not only on the workforce, but also to how your company is perceived. The fifth point would be to improve marketplace conditions. A comfortable working temperature is between 68 and 70 degrees. An environment that is too hot or too cold distracts from concentration, as employees will spend more time walking around to get their coats or an electric fan. Ensure that both heating and air conditioning systems are in working order for when the relevant season comes around. The sixth point is to offer support and get realistic goals. So a common problem for managers is having no clear, strong sense of whether their employees are high performing or not. Do your employees need an incentive to stay on track? Help them by offering goals that are achievable. Provide clear direction to supervisors and employees to help clarify expectations. This will help to increase their productivity as they will have a clear focus and clear goals. And then the seventh point is practice positive reinforcement. Encourage, motivate, and reward. Tell employees that they're doing a good job and give them constructive criticism. Most importantly, offer personal incentives for doing the job well. Could they get a free holiday or a free takeout coffee for performing above and beyond their roles? You should clearly indicate success of one employee to other staff to cultivate a sense of fulfillment, to motivate others. When you motivate your employees to work harder and receive rewards in return, they're more likely to put increased productivity high up on their to-do list. And then finally, appreciation. A stressful workplace will not yield results. Workers that constantly operate under highly stressful conditions are found to be less productive and have higher levels of disengagement and absenteeism. So showing employees how much the company appreciates, respects, and values them on a personal level is gratifying, and it's often overlooked. Skills and knowledge gap. So obviously it's important to have the right technical skills. An experienced, competent team member finishes work more efficiently than someone who's still learning the job. However, soft skills matter too. You know, someone who has great organizational skills and a strong sense of responsibility to their team is more likely to be productive. You might be tempted to blame your employees' lack of knowledge or skills for their productivity issues, but be careful. Having the right skills is just a small part of the picture. If there are other roadblocks, even your most experienced team members will struggle to work efficiently. So think about the way knowledge is stored and shared at your company. Is it easy to find information about processes and procedures? Can employees access historical data to make informed decisions? Do all decisions need to go through you? To be productive, your employees must be knowledgeable and you must make information accessible. Addressing knowledge gaps is an ongoing process. Keeping information organized takes continuous effort. At the same time, your team needs to keep up with the changes in your industry. So build good habits and your knowledge base will improve over time. Inefficient workflows are a major drain. Your employees can spend more time figuring out how to do their job than they actually spend doing the job. This is a common problem. Studies actually show that 39% of employees feel that the document management processes at their company are broken, with the biggest issue being actually locating documents. Another 55% of newly hired employees say that they don't get access to the tools and the documents they need during onboarding. So communication issues like these are pretty expensive. Businesses lose workers almost every year due to communication barriers. The most productive companies write things down. An employee should never have to ask you how to do the job. But if you are the only one or the only person who knows how these things are done, then everyone has to come to you for those answers. So don't become your company's biggest bottleneck. Define roles, write down processes, and keep the workflow documents up to date. You'll be able to spot inefficiencies in a way that you handle projects, and you'll make it easier for your team to do their jobs independently.
And I apologize for interrupting, Diana. I'm sorry. I'm just going to interject for a moment and just let everybody know that I know that we're coming up on the 11 a.m. deadline to the end of the presentation. However, we do have quite a few slides to go, and we would like to continue to share that information with anyone who's able to still attend during that time. However, if you need to leave, you are welcome to do so, and we completely understand, and we'll still be sending a follow-up email with information about this presentation, okay? Diana, please feel free to continue with your presentation. I apologize for interrupting.
Oh, no, that's okay. Thank you for that reminder. So I'm going to kind of skip over some of these things. So there are different reports that show increasing in productivity by 47% since March of 2020 compared to March and April. And they've deciphered that when people are the most productive, So the report states that workers are most productive on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between the hours of 10:30 to 3. But yet the average workday still reflects an 8:30 to 5 schedule. So, keep that in mind, and maybe kind of change up how you do things throughout the day or how work is being done throughout that day. Also, workers in a home environment are less, are also are less distracted by coworkers, spending 30 or so minutes less talking about non-work topics, and actually spend 7% less time talking to management. So just because productivity is up, it doesn't mean it's always going to stay this way. There are some companies that actually find the whole quarantine and working from home to be effective, yet other companies will find that it's not working in the way that they feel that their customers are being satisfied. So there are some questions that you should be asking yourself as a leader. What are the key productivity metrics, for your business unit? What are the goals that boost productivity? Are there KPIs for the employees? I'm just going to skip over some of these. How are we setting the priorities and expectations? Do you have a standard response time if an employee is not communicated, when they're out of the office? What are some of the software that you're using to maintain work relationships? And then some of the tips for workers. Are the workers comfortable? Are they ergonomically correct? Do they have a workspace that separates them from home life? And do they have the right materials? Are they able to keep their work life separate from their personal life? Or do they stay off Facebook except for lunch and at the end of your day? And then what do they usually do? Obviously we have workers that are working from home. Are their kids at home? I mean, what is their plan? Do they put signs outside their door to make sure that they're not disturbed when they're in meetings or when they're having to work? Are they taking their breaks? It's the best way to stay productive as long as if they take their breaks. And then the hardest part, obviously, is some of the mental issues that employees are facing, which is the feelings of loneliness or the lack of social isolation. I think that's why some of the employers are coming up with hybrid schedules now in order to meet both of those issues that are going on. And then are there ways where you are able to measure productivity? One way of determining productivity is actually setting a goal for each team or department. Some of this might be, number of sales of a team that a person has to generate. Maybe it's number of tasks that have to be completed. Is there a way to measure productivity by looking at how many tasks an employee or a team has managed to complete in a specific period? This is a good method, especially if the work is repetitive or production-based. The revenue, per employee, some companies, opt for looking at productivity as the amount of revenue that they generate. You could look at that as a company, or you could divide it by departments, however way you want to measure that. Labor productivity formula. So according to the labor productivity formula, productivity equals, the total output divided by the total input. So let's just say your business generates, $100,000 in revenue in a month with the help of 1,500 workers. In that case, your productivity would be $100,000 divided by 1,500 workers, which is $66 an hour. Another way to measure is the activity level. So if your team works remotely, tracking the activity level is a smart way to spot productivity issues in real time. Activity levels should be treated as an indicator, not a specific measure of productivity. So you would use the historic data to help you understand how your employees work on a regular basis. So changes to the individual or group activity levels can also tell you that it's time to check in. And so these are just some of the resources that are available to you. These are a few books that I've read that could help you learn a little bit more about staying productive. Some of the podcasts here are some of the podcasts that talk about staff productivity and how to improve and that within your own organization. And then I'm done.
Yay! So actually, we didn't have any content-related questions. at this time, so we are good to go. And I just wanted to thank everybody for attending today's webinar presented by Heffernan. We will send information by email with instructions on how to access a copy of the presentation on our website. Thank you again, Diana Cano, for your time and expertise today. And we hope all of the attendees found today's webinar to be a valuable use of their time. Please be sure to join us on March 15th for Work Comp Update. And thank you, and have a safe day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.